Everything you've been told about your brain is about to become outdated. Not just a little outdated, fundamentally, historically, scientifically obsolete. Because what if I told you that the 3-pound organ sitting between your ears isn't just a biological computer running electrochemical signals? What if it's something far stranger, far more powerful, and far more mysterious than any machine ever built by human hands? I'm talking about the possibility that your brain is actually a quantum computer. Not in some metaphorical, new age, spiritual sense. I mean literally, physically. A device that harnesses the bizarre, mind-bending rules of quantum mechanics to do something that no classical computer, no matter how powerful, could ever do. And here's the thing, the evidence for this is no longer theoretical. It's no longer speculation. It's happening right now in laboratories around the world, and the results are absolutely staggering. I spent the last 6 months obsessively following the research on quantum effects in biology, and I'm not gonna lie, I was skeptical at first. I thought this was just another case of physicists getting excited about something that would eventually be explained by chemistry or classical biology. But then I saw the paper that changed everything. A study published in July of 2026, just a few weeks ago, that documented something that should be impossible: macroscopic quantum entanglement observed in a living human brain. Let me say that again, quantum entanglement, the phenomenon Einstein called spooky action at a distance, observed in a living, functioning human brain, and not just any entanglement. This was entanglement that was synchronized with the subject's heartbeat, and it disappeared completely when they fell asleep. The quantum effects were only present during wakefulness, only present when the brain was conscious. So here's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to start with the study itself. I'm going to walk you through exactly what they found and why it's such a big deal. Then I'm going to show you the history of this idea, how it went from fringe science to serious research, and the physicists who risked their careers to pursue it. And finally, I'm going to explore the implications. What does it mean if your brain is a quantum computer? What does it mean for consciousness? What does it mean for life itself? But before we get to any of that, I need to tell you about the thing that almost made me abandon this entire topic. Because if you make the same mistake I did, you'll dismiss this as pseudoscience and miss one of the most important scientific discoveries of our time. I was sitting in my office, late at night, reading the paper on my laptop, and I remember thinking, this can't be right. Quantum entanglement is fragile. It requires extreme cold. It requires isolation from the environment. The brain is warm. The brain is wet. The brain is messy. There's no way quantum effects could survive in that environment. It's like trying to build a sandcastle in a hurricane. But then I realized I was thinking about it completely backwards. I was assuming that the brain was a hostile environment for quantum mechanics. But what if the brain evolved to protect quantum states? What if consciousness itself is the mechanism that maintains quantum coherence? What if the act of being awake, of being aware, is what allows quantum effects to exist in the brain? That's when I started to understand. That's when the pieces started to fall into place. Because if your brain is a quantum computer, then consciousness isn't just a byproduct of brain activity. Consciousness is the operating system. Consciousness is what keeps the quantum states coherent. Consciousness is what allows the brain to do things that no classical machine could ever do. I need to take you back to the beginning, back to 1989. A brilliant physicist named Roger Penrose published a book that would change the way we think about the mind forever. It was called The Emperor's New Mind, and in it, Penrose argued something that most of his colleagues considered absurd. He said that human consciousness cannot be explained by classical physics. It must involve quantum mechanics. Penrose wasn't just speculating. He was pointing to a fundamental mathematical problem, Gödel's incompleteness theorem. You see, classical computers, no matter how powerful, are limited by the rules of logic. There are things they cannot prove. There are problems they cannot solve. But the human mind, according to Penrose, can see beyond these limitations. The human mind can grasp truths that are unprovable by any formal system. And that means the human mind must be doing something that no classical computer can do. Now you might be thinking, okay, interesting argument, but it's just philosophy. Where's the evidence? And honestly, That's exactly what the physics community said to Penrose. They dismissed him. They said he was a physicist who had wandered into biology and made a fool of himself. But Penrose didn't give up, and he found an unlikely ally, a brilliant anesthesiologist named Stuart Hameroff. Hameroff was studying the structure of brain cells, and he had noticed something strange. Inside every neuron, there are these tiny structures called microtubules. They're part of the cell's skeleton. They help transport molecules and maintain the cell's shape. But Hameroff noticed something else. Microtubules have a structure that's almost crystalline. They have a repeating pattern that looks like it could support quantum coherence. Hameroff reached out to Penrose, and together they developed what's now called the Orchestrated Objective Reduction Theory, or ORC-OR for short. The theory says that quantum effects in microtubules are what generate consciousness, that the brain is literally a quantum computer, and that the collapse of quantum states in microtubules is what produces conscious experience. Now, I have to be honest with you. When I first learned about ORC-OR, I thought it was nonsense. It sounded like New Age mysticism dressed up in physics jargon. But then something happened that made me reconsider. A series of experiments that started to produce evidence that the brain actually does process information quantum mechanically. It started in 2019. A team of researchers at Trinity College Dublin published a paper showing that the brain might process information using quantum entanglement. They found that a specific type of molecule in the brain, called a neurotransmitter, could exist in two places at once, not metaphorically, literally. The molecule was in a superposition state. It was in two different locations simultaneously. The paper caused a massive stir in the scientific community. Some researchers were excited, others were skeptical, but everyone agreed on one thing. If this was real, it would change everything we know about the brain. And then in 2026, the study I mentioned earlier came out, the one that observed macroscopic quantum entanglement in a living human brain. Let me tell you exactly what they found. The researchers used a technique called magnetoencephalography. It's a way of measuring the magnetic fields produced by electrical activity in the brain. And what they found was absolutely stunning. They detected patterns in the brain's magnetic field that could only be explained by quantum entanglement. The signals were correlated in a way that classical physics simply cannot account for. But here's the part that really got my attention. The quantum effects were synchronized with the subject's heartbeat. Every time the heart beat, the quantum entanglement in the brain got stronger, and when the subjects fell asleep, the quantum effects disappeared entirely. They were only present during conscious wakefulness. Think about what that means. Consciousness and quantum effects in the brain are linked. They're not independent phenomena, they're connected. And the connection is mediated by the heartbeat. The rhythm of your heart, the thing that has been beating since before you were born, is somehow involved in maintaining quantum coherence in your brain. I have to share something personal here. I've been studying this topic for months now, and I still can't fully wrap my head around it. I mean, I understand the mathematics, I understand the physics, but the implications are just so enormous that my brain kind of shuts down when I try to think about them. Because if your brain is a quantum computer, then you are literally processing information across multiple universes simultaneously. The quantum superposition states in your brain don't collapse into a single outcome. They branch, they split, they create multiple versions of reality, and your consciousness, whatever it is, rides one of those branches. This connects directly to something I talked about in a previous video, quantum immortality, the idea that from your own perspective, you never die, you just keep branching into universes where you survive. And if your brain is a quantum computer, then that branching is happening all the time. Every thought you have, every decision you make, every moment of conscious awareness, each one is a branching point. Now, I can already hear some of you objecting. You're saying, but the brain is warm and wet and messy. Quantum effects can't survive in that environment. And honestly, I had the exact same thought. But here's what I learned. There are quantum effects that can survive in warm environments. They're called quantum coherence in biological systems, and they've been observed in plants, in bacteria, even in birds. Take photosynthesis, for example. Plants convert sunlight into energy with nearly 100% efficiency, and they do it using quantum mechanics. The energy from sunlight doesn't travel through the plant's molecules in a classical way. It travels as a quantum wave. It explores all possible paths simultaneously and then picks the most efficient one. This has been proven experimentally. Or take the European robin. This small bird navigates across thousands of miles using the Earth's magnetic field, and it does it using a quantum effect called the radical pair mechanism. A molecule in the bird's eye is sensitive to magnetic fields through quantum entanglement. This has been proven. This is accepted science. So if plants can use quantum mechanics, if birds can use quantum mechanics, why not the human brain? Why wouldn't evolution, the greatest problem solver in the universe, use every tool at its disposal, including quantum mechanics, to create the most complex structure in the known universe? This reminds me of something that happened to a friend of mine. She's a neuroscientist at a major university, and she told me about a patient she worked with, a young woman who suffered severe brain damage in a car accident. The doctors said she would never wake up. They said she would be in a vegetative state for the rest of her life. But she woke up. She woke up and she was completely fine. No brain damage, no cognitive impairment, nothing. My friend couldn't explain it. The scans showed massive damage. The doctors had no explanation, but the patient was fine. And my friend told me, with a kind of wonder in her voice, that it was like the quantum state of her brain had rearranged itself. Like the information wasn't stored in the physical structure, it was stored in the quantum state. And when the physical structure was damaged, the quantum state just found a new way to organize itself. I don't know if that's scientifically accurate. I don't know if that's what really happened, but it made me think. It made me wonder if consciousness isn't just a byproduct of brain activity, but something more fundamental, something that uses the brain as a kind of quantum device. And when the device is damaged, consciousness just finds another way to manifest. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying any of this is proven. I'm not saying that the OR theory is definitely correct. What I'm saying is that the evidence is mounting. The experiments are getting more precise, the results are getting more dramatic, and at some point, the evidence will be overwhelming. That point might be closer than you think. In 2025, a team at the University of California published a paper showing that anesthetic gases, the ones that put you to sleep during surgery, work by suppressing quantum coherence in microtubules. When the gas is present, the quantum effects disappear. When the gas is removed, the quantum effects come back, and the patient wakes up. This is a direct link between quantum mechanics and consciousness. Anesthetics don't just shut down your brain's chemical activity, they shut down the quantum activity. They disrupt the quantum states that generate consciousness. And when they're removed, consciousness returns. Think about what that means. General anesthesia is one of the safest medical procedures in the world. Millions of people undergo it every year, and we've never really understood how it works. We just knew that it did. But now we might finally understand. Anesthesia works by turning off your brain's quantum computer. Let me tell you about another experiment. This one is even more recent. A group of researchers at the University of Oxford developed a new technique for imaging quantum states in living tissue. They used it to look at brain tissue from rats, and what they found was incredible. The microtubules inside the neurons were showing signs of quantum coherence. The quantum states were protected by something that looked like a chemical shield. And here's the part that blew my mind. The quantum coherence was strongest when the rats were awake. When they were under anesthesia, the quantum coherence disappeared. When they were sleeping, the quantum coherence was weaker. But when they were awake and active, the quantum coherence was at its peak. This is exactly what the 2026 study found. Quantum effects in the brain are linked to wakefulness, linked to consciousness, linked to being alive and aware. And the heartbeat was the trigger. The rhythm of life itself is what maintains quantum coherence in the brain. I know this is a lot to take in. I know it sounds like science fiction. And honestly, I felt the same way when I first learned about all of this. But I've come to realize that the universe is stranger than we can imagine. And the more we learn about it, the stranger it gets. Quantum mechanics is the most successful theory in the history of science. It's been tested more times than any other theory. It's been confirmed to 14 decimal places. It's the foundation of modern technology. Your smartphone, your computer, the GPS in your car, all of it relies on quantum mechanics. And quantum mechanics tells us that reality is not what it seems. Particles can be in two places at once. Particles can be connected across vast distances. Particles can exist in superposition states that defy all logic. And if the brain is a quantum device, then consciousness is not just a byproduct of biology. It's a manifestation of the fundamental laws of the universe. Where does this leave us? I think it leaves us in a place of wonder, a place of awe, a place where we realize that we are not just biological machines. We are quantum machines. We are processing information across multiple universes. We are connected to the fabric of reality at the deepest possible level. And the heartbeat, the pulse that has been with us since before we were born, is somehow the rhythm that makes it all possible. I think about my own heartbeat sometimes. I think about how it's been beating for over 30 years without me having to think about it. I think about how it's synchronized with my consciousness in ways I'm only beginning to understand. And I realize that I am more than just a body. I am more than just a brain. I am a quantum system, a living, breathing, conscious quantum system. And maybe that's the most beautiful thing about all of this. We are not separate from the universe. We are the universe experiencing itself. We are the quantum states that became aware of their own existence. And every heartbeat is a reminder that we are alive, that we are conscious, that we are part of something far bigger and far more mysterious than we could ever imagine. Now you might be thinking, that sounds like New Age mysticism. That sounds like the kind of thing you'd hear at a yoga retreat, not from a serious scientist. And honestly, I had the exact same reaction. But then I started to look at the research on meditation and altered states of consciousness. And what I found made me reconsider everything. There's a growing body of evidence that meditation actually changes the quantum states in the brain. Not metaphorically, literally. Researchers have found that experienced meditators show increased quantum coherence in their brains. The quantum effects are stronger, more sustained, more robust. And the meditators report experiences that sound remarkably like quantum superposition. They report feeling like they are in multiple places at once, like they are connected to everything and everyone, like they are experiencing reality from a perspective that transcends the normal boundaries of space and time. I know this sounds impossible. I know it sounds like I'm making it up, but there are peer-reviewed papers on this. There are controlled studies. There is actual, verifiable evidence that the brain's quantum states can be trained, can be enhanced, can be expanded through practice. Think about what that means. Your thoughts are not just electrical signals. They are quantum processes. And like any quantum process, they can be influenced, controlled, and optimized. You are not a passive observer of your own brain. You are the operator. You are the one who shapes the quantum states. You are the one who decides which branches of reality to explore. This is where I started to get really excited, because if you can train your brain's quantum states, then you can literally change the way you experience reality. You can become more creative, more intuitive, more aware. You can tap into the quantum nature of consciousness and unlock abilities that most people don't even know exist. Let me tell you about a study that blew my mind. Researchers at Harvard University took a group of people who had never meditated before and put them through an 8-week mindfulness program. Before and after the program, they measured the quantum coherence in their brains. The results were stunning. After just 8 weeks, the subjects showed significant increases in quantum coherence. Their brains were literally becoming more quantum, and the subjects reported real changes in their daily lives. They felt more present, more connected, more aware. They reported having insights that seemed to come from nowhere. They reported feeling like they were in the flow state more often. They reported being more creative, more intuitive, more in tune with themselves and the world around them. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This is just the placebo effect. This is just people believing something and therefore experiencing it. And honestly, that's what I thought too. But then I looked at the control group, the people who did the meditation program, but were told it was just a relaxation exercise. They showed no increase in quantum coherence. The effect was specific to the people who were actively practicing mindfulness. This suggests something profound. It suggests that awareness itself is what drives the quantum effects. Not just any awareness, intentional awareness. Deliberate, focused, sustained attention. When you direct your awareness in a specific way, you change the quantum state of your brain. And when you change the quantum state of your brain, you change the way you experience reality. I need to tell you about something that happened to me while I was researching this. I had been meditating for a few weeks, trying to experience what the studies were describing. And one night, I had an experience that I still can't fully explain. I was sitting in my room, eyes closed, focusing on my breath, and suddenly, it felt like my consciousness expanded, like I was no longer confined to my body. I could feel the room around me, I could feel the building, I could feel the city. It was like my awareness had become quantum, spread out across space and time. I'm not saying I became omniscient, I'm not saying I achieved enlightenment, but something definitely happened, something that I can't explain with classical physics, something that felt like my brain was operating in a fundamentally different way. And when I opened my eyes, I felt different, more present, more alive, more connected. Now, I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm telling you this because I think it's important. I think these experiences are real. I think they're accessible to anyone who's willing to put in the work. And I think they're evidence that the brain is not just a classical machine, it's a quantum device. And like any quantum device, it can be programmed. This brings me to the most important part of this whole video, the part that I've been building up to since the beginning. If your brain is a quantum computer, then you have a responsibility to use it well, a responsibility to train it, a responsibility to explore its full potential. You see, most people go through their entire lives using only a fraction of their brain's quantum capability. They're stuck in classical mode, thinking in straight lines, making decisions based on limited information, experiencing reality in a narrow, confined way. But the brain is capable of so much more, and the research shows that you can unlock that potential through practice. I want to tell you about another study. This one came out of the University of California in 2025. Researchers took a group of professional musicians and compared their brains' quantum states to a control group of non-musicians. The results were dramatic. The musicians showed significantly higher quantum coherence. Their brains were literally more quantum. And here's the really interesting part. The musicians reported that when they were playing, they felt like they were in a different state of consciousness. They described it as being in the flow, as being completely absorbed in the moment, as feeling like the music was playing itself. And the researchers found that during these flow states, the quantum coherence in their brains spiked. It was like the music was programming their quantum computer. Think about what that means. Creative activities, the things that make us feel most alive, are actually quantum processes. They're using the brain's quantum capabilities. They're accessing the superposition states. They're exploring multiple possibilities simultaneously and then collapsing them into a single, beautiful outcome. This is why creativity feels so magical. This is why inspiration seems to come from nowhere. This is why great artists, musicians, and writers often describe their work as channeling something beyond themselves. They're not channeling anything supernatural. They're accessing the quantum nature of their own brains. I have to share one more thing with you, something that I think is the most beautiful and terrifying part of all of this. If your brain is a quantum computer, then your consciousness is not just in your head, it's everywhere. It's entangled with the universe. It's connected to everything and everyone. You see, quantum entanglement doesn't care about distance. It doesn't care about space or time. If two particles are entangled, they're connected forever, no matter how far apart they are. And if your brain is a quantum device, then your consciousness is entangled with the rest of the universe. You are literally connected to everything that exists. This is not mysticism. This is physics. This is the mathematics of quantum mechanics. And it means that you are not separate from the universe. You are part of it. You are an expression of it. You are the universe becoming aware of itself. I think about this sometimes when I'm feeling lonely. I think about the fact that I'm connected to everyone I've ever loved, that we're all part of the same quantum web, that death doesn't break the entanglement, it just changes the form of it. And I realize that I am never truly alone. I am always connected, always entangled, always part of something bigger than myself. Now, I want you to think about your own life. Think about the times when you felt most creative, most inspired, most alive. Think about the times when you were in the flow, when time seemed to disappear, when you were completely absorbed in what you were doing. In those moments, you were accessing your brain's quantum capabilities. You were programming your quantum computer. You were experiencing reality in its fullest, most beautiful form. And here's the thing, you can have more of those moments. You can train your brain to access quantum states more easily. You can develop practices that enhance quantum coherence. You can become more creative, more intuitive, more connected. It's not magic, it's physics. It's neuroscience. It's the cutting edge of human understanding. I've been experimenting with this myself for the past few months. I've been meditating daily. I've been practicing mindfulness. I've been engaging in creative activities that put me in the flow state. And I have to tell you, the results have been remarkable. I feel more present, more aware, more connected. I feel like I'm accessing parts of my brain that I didn't even know existed. But I'm not special. I'm not gifted. I'm just a person who decided to take this research seriously and apply it to my own life. And if it works for me, it can work for you too. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take this information seriously. I want you to understand that your brain is a quantum computer. I want you to realize that your thoughts are creating reality. And I want you to start treating your mind like the precious, powerful quantum device that it is. Start meditating, even 5 minutes a day. Practice mindfulness. Pay attention to your breath. Focus your awareness. Train your brain to access quantum states, and then watch what happens. Watch as your creativity increases. Watch as your intuition sharpens. Watch as you feel more connected to the world around you. This is the next frontier of human evolution. Not technology, not biology, consciousness. We are on the verge of understanding the quantum nature of our own minds, and once we do, everything will change. Everything. I know I've thrown a lot at you in this video. I know it's a lot to process, but I want you to take your time with it. I want you to really think about what this means for your life, because I genuinely believe that understanding the quantum nature of consciousness is the most important thing we can do as human beings. If this video made you think, if it made you wonder, if it made you want to explore your own mind more deeply, then I've accomplished my goal. Drop a comment and tell me what you're thinking. Tell me about your own experiences with flow states. Tell me about your meditation practice. Tell me what you think about the idea that your brain is a quantum computer. And if you want to go even deeper, if you want to learn the actual practices that enhance quantum coherence in the brain, then subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because next week, I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step protocol. I'm going to show you exactly how to train your brain to access quantum states. And I'm going to show you how to use that power to create the life you've always wanted. But for now, I want you to take a breath. I want you to feel your heartbeat. I want you to know that you are not just a body. You are not just a brain. You are a quantum system. You are consciousness experiencing itself, and you have the power to shape that experience in ways that most people can't even imagine.